I've wanted to make a video on cycling nutrition for quite a while, and I keep putting it off because there are so many opinions about diet and nutrition that it's overwhelming. It seems like you ask 10 different people about health and nutrition and you'll get 10 different answers. Because of the complexity, because of how complex our bodies are, I've just not wanted to really do this, but I've had so many people ask me about nutrition that I feel obligated to at least share with you what I do and what works for me. I'm going to try to keep out most of my opinions of health and nutrition, but I want to throw in a few, and I'll start off by maybe stating the obvious for a lot of people out there, but diet and nutrition is absolutely key to everything that you do. Your work life, your cycling, your sleep, just how you feel on a daily basis. I just cannot overemphasize how important it is to find what works for you. There are so many different theories on diet and nutrition. I've listed a few that I've heard over the years. You've got paleo, you've got Atkins diet, you've got Whole30, you've got eat for your blood type. Some people are all raw, some people are vegan, some people are vegetarian, some people, I've even heard one guy who only eats once a day and he just eats a bunch of meat at night. So there's so many things out there related to diet and nutrition. So for this video, I just want to focus on cycling and your performance. A few years ago, I read Chris Carmichael's book on cycling and nutrition. I can't remember the exact title, but that was honestly a little bit too complicated for me. It was counting your grams of protein and carb and periodizing your eating based on what type of training you're doing. I have to keep things simple. I'm too busy to count my carbs and my protein all the time, so I have to keep it simple. Now let me talk first about sugar, because that's gonna, when I show the stuff that works for me, I'm gonna explain why these things do work for me. I'm one of those people. I ate like crap as a kid, and because of that, something happened to my pancreas along my life, and I literally cannot have any sugar without really ill effects. I'll feel like I have the flu, I get a headache, my blood sugar will just drop, I'll get hypoglycemic. In fact, a year or so ago I ate a pretty healthy chocolate bar, low sugar, but my blood sugar was off literally for a week. Every night I'd have a blood sugar crash. Now it's true that all sugar breaks down into glucose, but what a lot of people don't understand is getting the sugar into glucose can be hard on your body if you have white processed sugar. Your insulin has to spike so fast, it's hard on your body. So I, again, don't have any white sugar. I have to, now I can eat honey. I can do some of the products that I'll show here in a minute by Hammer Nutrition. I really like Hammer Nutrition because they don't use white processed sugar. I like Cliff Bar products. They're sweetened with brown rice syrup. All those things are fine with me. It's just the white sugar. I've heard people say that there's no difference between white sugar and honey. Well, there is, and I can tell you just from personal experience. I can't do sugar. I can do honey. I put honey in my oatmeal every morning. So, you know, just that I wanted to mention that about sugar before I go into the products that I use. Hydration is so important. I did a video a while ago on riding in the heat, and if you haven't seen that, go back and watch it. But you've got to stay hydrated as a cyclist, especially in the summer months. I will keep a water bottle with me all the time. I sip on a water bottle constantly throughout the day, especially in the summertime. Now, I did mention in that video, and I'll mention it again, that you have to be careful not to just chug and chug water. You can drink too much water. There's a condition called hyponatremia where your sodium levels get off in your body. In other words, you don't have the electrolytes to balance out the water that you're drinking, and so you cannot just chug water. You want to sip a water bottle, maybe about 8 to 12 ounces per hour, just on a, as you go throughout your day. And then obviously when you're cycling, I drink about a bottle every hour and 15 minutes in the wintertime, and bottle about every 45 minutes in the heat. Now, I ride in a very hot condition in the summertime. So that's hydration. Electrolytes are also extremely important. You have to have electrolytes to make your muscles work properly, even your heart to work properly. There was a time several years ago where I had a condition, I had an arrhythmia in my heart, and I actually had a procedure done, a medical procedure, to find out what was going on. Looking back, I think part of that was electrolytes. Some of it may have been anxiety at the time. I won't go into that, but that's just how important electrolytes are. So one of the best natural energy bars is this right here. A banana has carbs, protein, potassium. It's got the electrolytes that you need. So you literally could get by with a banana and a water bottle for a lot of your riding to get those electrolytes in. Now let's talk about carbohydrate. Carbs are very, very important for cycling, obviously. It's the energy source that you burn most of the time. The harder you ride, the more carbs that you're burning. At lower intensities, you're going to burn more percentage of fat. Now, you still burn fat when you're riding hard, but the percentage of fat that you burn when you're riding is higher at lower intensities. But at carbs, especially at really high intensities, VO2 max or lactic acid threshold, you're burning a lot of carbs. I recommend eating 3 hours before a hard ride. If you're going to get up early in the morning to ride, I will eat later at night. I try to not eat past about 7 o'clock. I like to have about 2 hours before I go to bed without eating. It just helps me feel fresher in the morning. But if I have a really hard ride scheduled early in the morning, I will eat kind of late at night, just some cereal or something, something not too sweet because that can keep you up. And then as you get closer to your ride, when you're an hour out from a race or a ride, you need to eat again. Not as much, but you need to have carbs. Now, both of those meals, 3 hours before and 1 hour before you ride, it needs to be carbs. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit of there's protein in everything that you eat. And protein is made up of amino acids, and if you eat a variety of foods, you will get all 8 essential amino acids in your diet. You don't necessarily have to eat a ton of meat to get protein, but those meals that you eat before a ride and even during a ride, they need to be carbohydrates. So let me show you the products that I use, and I'll tell you why I use them. First of all, my energy drink when I ride is Heed. Heed is made with maltodextrin. Probably not as natural as a banana as far as the sugars, but it gets processed in my body slowly compared to something like white sugar. Gatorade, don't do Gatorade. I live in Gainesville, Florida, where Gatorade was invented. I went to the university where Gatorade was invented, but it's not the healthiest thing you can put in your body. In fact, I had it on a hard century one time and got sick. I just got nauseous on a long, hard climb. So I do Heed. It works very well for me. Hammer Nutrition, to me, they do it right. They don't just throw in junk and white sugar. Also, I do the Hammer Gel. So I buy this big thing and I use a flask. I don't like tearing into a packet and littering a packet on the trail. When I go to races, it bugs me to see people just throw their packet down as if they're important enough to have someone else pick it up for them. There's my opinion. So Hammer Gel, very important. I use this in my cyclocross races. I'll take a couple squigs of this during a race when I'm just going full out for 45 minutes because you're burning so many carbs. I want to be able to go strong into the end. I don't do as much of this on longer rides. Sometimes I will carry it with me, especially if it's a really hard ride. The nice thing about gels is that they're gentle on your stomach. Some people cannot eat solid food when they ride. I do. I'm used to eating a lot of solid food when I ride. But if you have stomach problems when you're riding because of the intensity, then try gels because you've got to have carbohydrate. If I ride more than an hour, I will eat on the ride. Hour or less, you can just eat before you ride and you're okay. Anything more than an hour, I always will eat. And what I do is I bring Cliff Bars. I love Cliff products. I love how natural they are. They're made with organic ingredients. Again, they don't use white sugar. So I probably eat my body weight in these things every month. My family just goes through a bunch of these, but I will always carry one more Cliff Bar with me than I think that I need on a ride. So if it's a 1 hour ride, I will still bring a Cliff Bar just in case. I've had those very rare moments where for whatever reason I start to have a blood sugar crash in the middle of the ride, and I will have a Cliff Bar with me. If I usually will eat either a banana or a Cliff Bar every hour. So if it's a 2 hour ride, I'll bring 3 Cliff Bars or 2 Cliff Bars and 1 banana. Always one more than I think I need, just in case. So again, that's kind of my rule of thumb, is that I will bring a Cliff Bar with me for every hour of riding, plus the extra one. Also, something that's good for longer rides is peanut butter honey sandwiches. I make it on wheat bread. Something that's very natural. It's not as expensive as a Cliff Bar. You know, I get those for 99 cents, but still it adds up. Now, obviously, a peanut butter and honey has more protein, so I don't do those on hard rides. But I said peanut butter, man. Peanut butter and honey sandwich on my longer rides, especially if I'm doing like a 3, 4, 5 hour ride. I don't want to just have Cliff Bars the whole ride. I want to have some variety, so I'll do banana and the peanut butter and honey sandwich. Learning to listen to your body is very important when it comes to nutrition. And one of the main ways of doing that is knowing when it's time to eat on a ride. Not everybody is going to eat every hour. I realize that. I'm just telling you what works for me. But you need to start to recognize when you start to feel hungry. There are some rides where I will eat more than a Cliff Bar per hour. I know when my blood sugar starts to drop. I have sensitive blood sugar, probably more sensitive than a lot of you out there. So I have learned to recognize that feeling of when it's time to eat. Now, I had mentioned hydration. I mentioned eating during the ride. Now, it's also very important that you drink throughout your ride. Don't just chug a bottle of water every hour. You need to sip water about every 10 or 15 minutes when you're riding. And I already mentioned how many bottles I use depending on the heat. So again, it's important to drink while you ride. Now, you don't necessarily have to use a electrolyte drink like Heed. So Heed obviously has sugars, but also has the electrolytes. You can also use Endurolytes. These, I swear by these, because in the summertime I lose so much sodium, I sweat so much that I have to replace my electrolytes, and this is something that I would really recommend. What's nice about these too is if you do events and you're particular about what kind of drink you have, you can just have a jersey full, and I have this little container that I keep these in. I'll just stick these in my jersey, and if I get to an aid station, I'll just get water and I'll do Endurolytes. So you can easily get away with just the Endurolytes for your electrolytes. Now obviously these aren't carbs, so you're going to have to also have carbs. But if you don't want to do an energy drink, an electrolyte drink, do the Endurolytes. And I even will do Endurolytes the night before. I'll do a couple the night before a race, and I'll do then a couple of them before a race, and I'll do some after a race. I used to get headaches after a really hard race or ride. It wasn't until a few years ago that I really started focusing on the Endurolytes that I stopped getting those headaches. Now, it still happens from time to time. It's just the nature of the beast. All of us will get headaches after a hard ride. But focusing on replacing my electrolytes after a hard ride or race has really reduced the headache that I get. Another tip that I'll give you, I mentioned listening to your body. If you're newer to cycling, keep a journal of what you eat and how you felt during the ride and how you felt after the ride. It'll really help you find out what's good for your body, because all of us are different. Some people are going to need a little bit more protein than carbs than someone else who may need more carbs than protein. I'm a carb guy. I eat a lot of carbs, and it's just the way I do it. So Another tip that I'll give you is that recovery is extremely important for your riding. I made a video several months ago on the peanut butter banana smoothie that I eat after almost every ride now. It helps me recover so well. I will finish a hard ride. I'll feel, just wiped out. If I do that peanut butter banana smoothie, I will feel so good a couple hours later compared to if I didn't eat or whatever. You have to eat when you get home from a hard ride. The longer and harder, the more you got to eat, and you've really got to eat as soon as you can to help you recover for later on that day and the next day. And that meal right after your ride needs to mainly be carbohydrate. Don't sit down and eat a steak dinner right after a ride. You've got to have carbohydrates. Protein is more important later on in the day, but you've got to replenish those carbohydrates. It can be simple carbs like bananas or fruit. It can be more complex carbs like pasta or rice. It doesn't matter. You just got to get carbs in your system. Your body's going to break it down and replenish those carbs. Something else that I want to mention is how important it is as a cyclist to eliminate toxins from your diet. And by toxins, I mean junk food, fast food. The more serious you want to be about cycling, the more you really got to focus on your diet and be disciplined. You cannot go out and eat a whole bunch of junk food and fast food and be at your peak performance. It's just not going to happen. You got to be realistic. And like I said before, I don't eat any fast food. So now obviously this video has been more than just a tutorial on diet. I have shared my opinions. I'm obviously very passionate about food and diet because of things that have happened personally and for other people that are close to me. And I'll share a little story that will just highlight why I'm so passionate about cycling. I just got back from a trip to New York City. And when I was walking around New York City, I looked around and I realized there was not one obese person, not even an overweight person. I walked for hours through Times Square just trying to find someone who was slightly overweight. I'm serious, I could not find anyone. In New York City, you take public transportation and you walk a lot. And people are just, they're not fat. They're not fat. And obviously food's very expensive there too. And when I got home that night, I went to the grocery store and realized that most people that I saw in the grocery store were overweight. And that highlights to me how important exercise is and how important diet and nutrition is. And so just things like that, when I see the problems going on in this country with health, and I could just go on for a very long time about our healthcare system and how much money we spend, but I don't want to go there anymore. Okay, I'm wrapping it up, I promise. So hopefully some of the things that I've shared with you in this video have been helpful. There's obviously so much you can do and read and learn about diet and nutrition. I just wanted to kind of share my opinions, what works for me, why it works. If you have any questions or comments below, or leave them below, and if you have any experiences that you've had with diet and nutrition or things that work for you, I'd love to hear it. People on this YouTube channel would love to hear things that work for other people out there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.